In this lecture, we will discuss about the circuit behavior with the non-ideal inputs. The circuit behavior with the non-ideal inputs. So far, whatever we have discussed, DC logic levels, the logic levels, voltage logic levels, and the noise margin levels, high state noise margin levels and the low state noise margin levels, or even in the circuit behavior with the resistive load also, the high and low inputs to the CMOS circuits are the ideal voltages. The high and low inputs to the CMOS circuits are ideal voltages, which are very close to the power supply rates. So for ideally for a CMOS circuit, if you consider, so let's take the for ideal CMOS and the ideal voltages that we have considered as for logic 0 low state, for logic 1 high state. ఎవరో అన్మ్యూట్ అయినట్టున్నారు, కొంచెం మ్యూట్ అవుతారా? Who is Jagdish? 407. Just a second. So we will continue. So we will continue. So here, the high and low inputs to CMOS circuits are the ideal voltages that we have considered, and all these ideal voltages are very close to the power supply rates. We know what are the power supply roles that we have considered. 5 volts of the power supply. Therefore, from a 5 volts of the power supply, the logic 0 is the 0 volts and the logic 1 is 5 volts. So when we apply the a low input of 0 volts, it produces the 5 volts of high output, and for the high of 5 volts, it produces the 0 volts of the low state output. These are all ideal voltages which are very close to the power supply rates here, which are very close to the power supply rates. But in the practical cases, if you consider, all the time we may not give the guarantee that always the inputs are in the stipulated levels. So the stipulated levels are 0 volts and the 5 volts. We are not guaranteed for the all the time. So, and also if the inputs to the CMOS are not very close to the power supply, then what will happen to the CMOS circuit? So far, all the inputs are, we are assuming that they are ideal voltages and they are very close to the power supplies, right? But now, if the input and output, if the input high and low of the CMOS circuits are not very close to the power supply rates, then the behavior of the CMOS input, then the behavior of the CMOS inverter circuit, it depends on the input voltage and as well as the characteristic of the load here. So now the behavior of the circuit, it depends on the input voltage and also the type of load which is being connected to the output of the CMOS. So here, if the question is, if the input voltage is not close to the power supply rail, if the input voltage is not close to the power supply rail, then what will happen to the circuit? So if the input voltage is not close to the power supply, then it has effect on the transistor states here. It has effect on the transistor state. That is, the on transistor may not be fully on and the off transistor, it may not be fully off. As the on transistor is not fully on, so therefore its on resistance will now increase to the increased above the normal level here. And likewise, the off transistor is not fully off. Because of that, the resistance of the transistor, it decreases below the normal level here. For our understanding purpose, in our previous also, we have approximated the on resistance of the NMOS transistor is 100 ohms. It is 100 ohms. And the on resistance of the PMOS transistor, we are approximately considered as 200 ohms. And what about the off resistance? The off resistance of the NMOS and PMOS, it is greater than the 1 mega ohm here, or approximately 1 mega ohm. But now, if the input voltage is not closer to the power supply drain, so if it is not closer to the 5 volts of the supply, I am saying that I am applying a logic 1 input to the CMOS inverter, but I am giving the input as the 3.5 volts. Say, I am giving the input of the 3.5 volts here. Actually, the power supply rail is 5 volts, but we are giving the input as 3.5 volts to the CMOS inverter. Now, if you observe the input voltage, it is not closer to the power supply rail as 5 volts. It is somewhere at the 3.5 volts. Now, if you apply a voltage of 3.5 volts as an input to the CMOS circuit, now how the CMOS circuit will behave here? That will have an effect on the transistor resistances. For 5 volts of the supply, for 5 volts of the power supply, the NMOS transistor is on, the NMOS transistor is on, and it giving a resistance, or it is offering a resistance of 100 ohms. Whereas the P transistor, it is at the 1 mega ohm for the given 5 volts here. But in the reverse condition, for 0 volts, the PMOS transistor is on and it offers a resistance of 200 ohms, and the same 0 volts of the input, the NMOS transistor is producing the 1 mega ohm of the resistance. These are all we are approximating as the inputs are the ideal input voltages. But if the input voltage is not close to the power supply rail, then it has an effect on the resistance on the on transistor and the off transistor. Normally, it would be 100 ohms or the 200 ohms for the N and P transistors respectively. But now, because the transistor is not fully on, the on resistance is now, it is normal value is 100 ohm, but it will not be now as a 100 ohms. It will be somewhere at the 200 ohms here. Now the resistance has increased to the 200 ohms. And the off resistance of the transistor, it is normal value is 1 ohm or mega, above the 1 mega ohm. But now it will be decreased and it may be at somewhere at the 4 kilo ohm resistance here. Still if we compare the 200 ohms, when compared to the 200 ohms, the 4 kilo ohm resistance is a very high resistance here. So if the input voltage is not closer to the power supply, then it is said to be the non-ideal inputs. So now, what are the ideal inputs? What are the non-ideal inputs? If the high and low inputs to the CMOS circuits are very close to the power supply rails, then it is said to be the ideal inputs. If the input voltages are not very close to the power supply rail, then it is said to be the non-ideal inputs. We have already seen the behavior of the CMOS circuit when we given the ideal inputs 0 volts and 5 volts. The output voltage is 5 volts and 0 volts. But if you apply the non-ideal inputs, how the CMOS circuit will behave within the circuit. So that we will discuss here. So now, did you understand here? If the input voltage is not close to the power supply, the on transistor will not be fully on and the off transistor will not be fully off. If it is not fully on, the on resistance now it will increase above the normal value and the off transistor value will be decreased below the normal value. Now let us consider the non-ideal inputs, and according to that non-ideal inputs, how the circuit will behave here we will see now. So let's take the two non-ideal inputs. So normally ideal inputs are for low state is 0 volts, for high state is 5 volts here. Now for non-ideal inputs, let us take the 1.5 volts as the 0 state and the 3.5 is the high voltage here. Now see, now the scenario has changed here. In before the 0 volts is, now it is 1.5 volt. In before the 5 volts, it is now the 3.5 volts. So this is logic 0 now, let's say, and this is logic 1, let. So now when the logic 0 is applied, now when the logic 0 is applied, now the circuit modeled as this way. So now see, normally the resistance of the P channel is 200 ohms. Now it would be 400 ohms. So now the resistance has increased to 400 ohms. And see, for this 1.5 volts of input, actually the NMOS transistor should supposed to be, it is supposed to be 1 mega ohm. It is supposed to be 1 mega ohm. But now, because of this 1.5 volt, the NMOS transistor resistance is dropped to the 2.5 kilo ohm resistance. See now, see here it is the difference of the non-ideal inputs for between the ideal inputs and non-ideal inputs. So because of this change in resistances, the output voltage will also now changes here. Actually, the expected output is 5 volts. But now in this case, you are getting an output of 4.31 volt only. So approximately the 0.7 volt is dropped here. Likewise, take the second condition here. Now apply the logic 1 here. So now in our condition, in this case, we are considering the logic 1 as 3.5 volts here. So now when 3.5 volt is applied, now the resistances of the transistors are modeled as, let's observe here, actually the PMOS is supposed to be 1 mega ohm. It is supposed to be 1 mega ohm, but now it is dropped to the 4 kilo ohm here. And the NMOS transistor, it should have 100 ohms of normal resistance, but the resistance has now increased to the 200 ohms here. The resistance is increased to the 200 ohms. So now if you compare with our previous model circuit, these resistance are now, they are not same as of the our previous circuit resistances. So now again here, if you calculate the output voltage with respect to these values for a 3.5 volts of input, now the resistance is modeled as 4 kilo ohm for PMOS and 200 ohms for the NMOS. Now with these resistance values, if you calculate the output voltage, now the output voltage is 0.24 volt, that is 0.24 volts. Actually, it is supposed to be 0 volts or it is supposed to be 0.1 volt with the power supply rails. But because of these non-ideal inputs, now the voltage, the output voltage, now it has been increased from the normal value. In the case of the low state input, the output is, it has been decreased to 4.31 volts from the 5 volts. And in the case of the logic 1 stage, the output voltage has been increased from 0.1 volt to the 0.2 volts here. So now what we can conclude here? So what we can conclude here? So for a non-ideal inputs, there will be a degradation in the output values for the CMOS circuit. But still, if you observe these voltages, 4.31 volts and the 0.24 volts, still they are within the valid range for a high state, for high signal in the case of 4.31 volts and in the 0.24 in the case of the 0.4 volts. So which means still they are in a tolerable range only, but it has been observed that because of these non-ideal inputs, the output voltages are degrading to the normal, degrading below the normal values here or above the normal values. Okay, so that is one effect. It is there on the circuit with the non-ideal inputs. Non-ideal inputs. And here you may get a question that why we have particularly chosen these are the non-ideal inputs. Why the 0 as a 1.5 volt and why the logic 1 as a 3.5 volts? Because with the power supply rails, and we have also seen the voltage logic levels where the 70% of the input voltage for the high stage and 30% of the low state of the input. In such cases, the voltages are realized as 3.5 volts for logic 1 and 1.5 volts for the logic 0. So that's why, so here we have considered that the 1.5 as logic 0 as a non-ideal input and 3.5 volts as a logic 1 as a non-ideal input here. So now, because of these non-ideal inputs, there is an effect on the output voltage. So the degradation of the voltages are there. So now in the high state, if you observe, in the high state output, if you observe, actually it is 5 volts of the output voltage is expected, but we have got the 4.31 volts. So which means that there is a wastage of voltage here. So there will be a voltage drop, which is a wasted voltage drop here. So now here, to determine the wasted power, actually this is not desirable in the circuit because we are not using the dropped voltage for any other purpose or for any other purpose. So now, so if you see the wasted power, actually it is supposed to be 5 volts, but we have got the 4.31 volts. So now to observe the wasted power, so we will find the wasted current, because the power is the product of the voltage and current. The power is the product of the voltage and current. So the voltage is here 5 volts. Now the current is of wasted current. How we can determine the wasted current? So according to the Ohm's law, V equal to IR, I equal to V by R. So now the voltage is the 5 volts and that is divided with the total resistance. The total resistance is the 400 and the 2.5 kilo ohm. So that gives us the that gives us the current 1.72 milliampere. So once if we have the wasted current, so then we can calculate it. We can calculate the wasted power here. So now the wasted power is here 8.62 millivolts because of these non-ideal input of 1.5 volt. Likewise, you can also calculate the wasted current, and from that wasted current you can determine the wasted power, and roughly the wasted power in case of the 4.35 volts, it is 5 milliwatts here. It is 5 milliwatts here. So unnecessarily the power is being wasted in these cases here because of that non-ideal inputs of 1.5 volt and 3.5 volts here. And so this is up to the case, this is up to when we apply the non-ideal inputs. But now if you add the resistive load to this CMOS circuit, now it has the double effect here, because of the non-ideal inputs we have one effect, that is we are seeing that the output voltage is fall down below the normal value. In low state the value is increased above the normal value here. That is the effect of non-ideal. But now if you apply the resistive load to this non-ideal input, if you apply the non-ideal input, if you apply the non-ideal input with resistive load, so now what about the output voltage here? Because the 1.5 is the Logic's low, so when we apply logic low, the output is high. Without the resistive load, we have seen that it is the 4.61 volt. But now you see here, the output voltage is now furtherly degraded. So now it is degraded to the 3.98 volts here. It is 3.9 voltage here. So now how to determine this 3.9 volts here? So for an input of 1.5 volt of the CMOS inverter circuit, how the output is 3.9 volts here. So for determining this output voltage, we will go with the superposition theorem. We will go with the superposition theorem. Let's see here. Let remember this circuit here. So the resistive model, the resistive network is, the resistive load is represented with the equivalent Thevenin network with a equivalent Thevenin resistance and Thevenin voltage, which is connected to the output because of a load is connected. And now we wanted to calculate the output voltage here for the non-ideal input of 1.5 volt and a resistive load. So for this, we will use the superposition theorem here. So for this, we will use the superposition theorem. So what does the superposition theorem says here? What does the superposition theorem say here? So when you have a two power supplies in the network, so at one time we will remove the one power supply and we will find the equivalent voltage. And the second one on the second time we will remove the other voltage, and then we will try to calculate the voltage at that point. And in a superposition, in a superposition using that superposition theorem, so here we can calculate the output voltage. So we want to calculate the output voltage. So in this we have two power supplies. 5 volts is a one power supply and the 3.2 is the second power supply here. So now to calculate the output voltage because of these two power supplies, we have to take into consideration these two power supplies. So for simplicity, to determine that, we are going with the superposition theorem. So in this superposition theorem, so first we have ignored the 3.3 volts here. So when you ignore the 3.3 volts, so what are the resistors that are available in the network? So if you ignore this one, if you ignore this one, so now the resistances are 400, 2.5, and then this one, 667 ohms. So that is only here you can see. So now if you find the voltage at this point, so the V1 is again it is looks like a voltage divider circuit. We want to find the voltage at this point, but to determine this voltage V1, so we need the resistance values here. See here, the 2.5, it is not volts, the 2.5 kilo ohms. The 2.5 kilo ohms is parallel with the 667. So therefore, the equivalent resistance will come as a series into this 400 resistance. So now if you simplify this term here, you will get a voltage of the 2.84 volt. And now in the second case, if you see, ignore this 5 volts here. Now ignore this 5 volts here. If you ignore this 5 volts, now this 400 ohm, now it becomes to the parallel to the 2.5, because we will simply connect the voltage 5 volts. We will remove that 5 volts and it is simply connected to the ground. So as it is connected to the ground, now the 400 and 2.5 are in parallel, and which is series to the 667. And now again we want to find the voltage at this point. So again this circuit is looks like a voltage divider circuit, and by applying the voltage division principle with a voltage of the 3.3 volts, so by solving that you will get the 1.13 volt. So now the final voltage is the sum of the V1 voltage and V2 voltage, because we are trying to find out the output voltage with respect to the 5 volts and with respect to the Thevenin voltage 3.3 volts. So in this case, even by applying the superposition theorem, the output voltage is the sum of the V1 plus V2. So the V1 is 2.8 and the V2 voltage is 1.3. So therefore, now the total output voltage for the application of 1.5 volt of the input is 3.9 volts. And now again you see here the output voltage has been reduced from the normal value, but still here still this output voltage is in valid range only here. What is the valid range here? It is the 4.9 volts or the 5 volts. Sorry, it is not 4.9. It is still it is as a 3.5 volts. How I am saying it is a 3.5 volts here? Let us consider the logic values here of an input. The moment it is an output voltage, we accept this is an output voltage. But the moment when it is being applied to the another input as an input, so now the tolerable voltages are 3.5 as a high state of the input and the 1.5 as a low state of the output here. These are all the voltage logic levels of the input. So that's why the 3.9 volt is still acceptable in this case here. It is still acceptable in this case here. So that is a non-ideal voltage resistive load with the 5.5 volt. Now we will see the second condition, non-ideal input with resistive load. So now if you see the input voltage is logic 1. We say it is a logic 1, but the voltage is 3.5 volt. For this 3.5 volt, if you apply 3.5 volts, if you apply, so what would be the output here that you are seeing? The output is 0.93 volts. Without the resistive load, what is the output? Without the resistive load, the output is 0.24. But when the resistive load is added to the non-ideal input of the CMOS circuit, now the output voltage is again, it has been increased furtherly. And now it has increased to the value of 0.93. But if you observe, still this 0.93 is acceptable as a 1.5 volts here. It is still acceptable as a logic 0. It is acceptable as a logic 0. So this is the condition of a non-ideal input with the resistive load here. So what are the conclusions that we can make here? For a non-ideal input, there will be a degradation in the output high and low values. And furtherly, if you connect the resistive load to the non-ideal input circuit, again, it has another effect, and that causes to reduce the output voltages furtherly here. In the case of high state, the voltage will decrease from 5 volts to the 3.9 volt. In case of the low state voltage, the voltage will increase from the 0.24 to the 0.93 volts here. So that's why when we operate the CMOS circuits, or when we are operating the digital circuits, we must be very cautious with the input levels here, because for a proper input only we will able to get the proper output. We will able to get the proper output. If the inputs are improper, or if the inputs are not proper, then the output will be affected here. So now see here, uh, uh, another way we can also conclude that because of the non-ideal inputs, it causes the output voltage to change away from the power supply rails here. Finally, that is what we will observe here. From the power supply rail voltages, the output high state and low state values are deviated. They will move away from the normal power supply values here. So we should keep these points in our mind. So while we are handling with the non-ideal inputs, and while we are handling with the resistive loads. So this is about the non-ideal inputs with the resistive loads. And the next characteristic is fan out. As we know, as we have already discussed, what is a fan out? Simply a fan out can be defined as, the number of outputs can be handled by the CMOS gate. The number of outputs can be handled by the CMOS gate. And here, the fan out is of two. Here, this fan out is defined in two ways here. One is the DC fan out, and the second one is the AC fan out here. We haven't discussed the AC fan out at the in our previous class. We just only discussed the fan out, and which is a DC fan out. So what is a DC fan out here? There are different. So one can define in different ways. So here, the number of inputs that an output can drive, or the number of inputs can be driven by the CMOS output gate without changing, without disturbing the output state, whether the output state a high state or low state. But the output should not affected, and it will drive the inputs of the other gates here. It will drive the inputs of the other gates. Here. So here we have two types of the fan out here: DC fan out, AC fan out. So whatever the general statement that we have seen, whatever the general statement that we have seen is a DC fan out. That is the capability of the CMOS output to drive the number of inputs. Then what is AC fan out here? What is AC fan out? So here the AC fan out is the ability of an output to charge and discharge the stray capacitance is called AC fan out. So since the digital ICs are the semiconductor devices, and the semiconductor devices are the temperature sensitive, and even if you see the CMOS transistors, if you take the CMOS transistors or take any of the transistors, there are junction capacitances. So these junction capacitances are the stray capacitance. They exhibit the stray capacitances. So now, when you consider the junction capacitances of the transistor, because the transistor has three terminals: source, drain, and gate, and therefore between the two terminals it has a capacitance, junction capacitance, and that exhibits the stray capacitance. Okay, so now, so you cannot ignore or you cannot omit these effects on the transistor. So if you consider these effects, so that will be referred with the AC fan out here. So therefore the AC fan out is the ability of the output to charge and discharge the stray capacitance is called AC fan out here. It is called AC fan out. So now the AC fan out has an effect on the speed of the transistor here, because the charging and discharging it shows the effect on the speed of the transistor. How it affects on the speed of the transistor? If it takes the more time to charge and discharging, so therefore the input levels logic 0 and logic 1 will take more time to propagate from from the high state to low state or low state to high state. So that in turn causes that in turn affects the speed of the transistor. The speed of the transistor. So there are mainly two fan outs here, that is DC fan out and AC fan out. These are important, DC fan out and AC fan out. So here the AC fan out is the ability of the output to charge the discharge the stray capacitance of the transistor. Now the effects of the loading here. So what do you mean that loading effect here? So for example, say take a gate, take an AND gate, and it has an input, it has a two inputs and a one output here. And the fan out of this AND gate is say 4 here. Let's say 4. But you have connected 5 inputs to this output. You have connected 5 inputs to this. You have connected 5 inputs to this output. The normal rated fan out is 4. The normal rated fan out is 4. But you have connected 5 inputs to the output of the gate. So in that cases, it causes the loading effect, and that loading effect has effects on the behavior of the circuit here. That affects on the behavior of the circuit here. That's effects on the behavior of the circuit. So here the effects of the loading on the output beyond its fan out rating. So if you connect the beyond the rated of the fan out, then it has a loading effect, and that loading effect has shows effect on the overall behavior of the circuit. In what way it shows the effect? So the first one is so here the output is either the low state or the high state. So let's take the low state. In the low state, the output voltage VOL. What is the VOL? It is the maximum output voltage for the logic 0. So it is the maximum voltage of the output voltage for the logic 0. So now if you connect the more number of input devices at the output of the device, so now in the low state of to that device, the output voltage may increase the beyond the voltage value. Actually the VOL is the 0.1 volt. Now because of this loading effect, now the value will be increased to from 0.1 volt to the 0.2 or maybe 0.3 volt. And similarly, in the high state, the output voltage VOH. What is a VOH? It is the minimum input, it is the minimum output voltage for logic 1. So the minimum voltage for the logic 1. And we have seen with respect to the power rails, the VOH is the VDD minus 0.1 volt. So that is the 4.9, 5 minus 0.1, 4.9 volts. But because of this fan out, because of this loading effect with respect to the fan out, in the high state, the voltage will be fall below the VOH. It is supposed to be 4.9 volts, but now it may not be the 4.9. It will be below the 4.9 because you have connected more number of the inputs at the output of the transistor. So it has effect on the low state and high state. When the low state and high states are affected, it has an effect on the resistance also, because if the transistor is not properly in the on state or off state, their resistance will be increases and decreases from the normal values here. So because of the more number of the inputs are connected to the output of the transistor, the logic low state, logic high states will be affected, which in turn causes to changes the propagation delay of the transistor. So normally a transistor will have a propagation delay of the 3 nanoseconds. We will consider generally normal. But because of this loading effect, the propagation delay to the output may increase to the beyond the specifications. Normally it is supposed to be a 3 nanoseconds, but now it will increase to the 4 nanoseconds because of this loading effect. So when do you get the loading effect? If the fan out is connected to the more than, above the, or beyond the rated fan out if you connect. As the propagation delay increases, and that causes another effect on the rise and fall times of the transistor, the rise and fall times of the logic levels. Let's say the moment the circuit has to change the output from the 0 to 1, from low state to high state, it has to be changed. But because of the effects on the low state, high state propagation delay, the rise and fall times will also be affected here. When the rise time and fall times affected, again that causes on the propagation delay. So which are all again it is affected on the propagation delay here. Propagation delay. So the loading effect, so because of this, the overrated fan outs are connected, or the number of devices are connected to the output of the transistor beyond the rated value or the beyond the rated range. It has effect on the overall performance of the CMOS circuit. And the another one is operating temperature may increase here. As we know that the digital ICs are the semiconductor devices, and they are the temperature sensitive. As the change in the low state and high state, that causes to change the resistances, and the change in resistance causes to change in the currents, and the currents will causes to change the power dissipation, and the power dissipation is caused to change the operating temperature. So as the operating temperature increases, it reduces the reliability of the circuit. In what way it reduces the reliability? It increases the speed, or it maybe increases the power dissipation. By increasing the power dissipation, so the device will be get damaged here. So these are all effects of the loading. These are all effects of the loading, overloading. These are all effects of the overloading. So these are very, very important. The characteristics are very, very important here. So this is about the fan out. So, and what is the fan in? The fan in is the number of, or the maximum number of inputs that we can connect it to the gate. So that is the fan in. And the last one is unused inputs. Unused inputs here. So here, CMOS input should never be left uncompensated here. So the CMOS input should never be left unconnected here. So it should not be in a floating mode here. It should not be in a floating mode, or it should not be left open here. So therefore, all these CMOS inputs have to be tied to a fixed voltage level. You are not supposed to leave any signal. So each input must be connected either to the a zero voltage or to the VDD voltage or to another input also. You can also connect it to the, you can tie up to the another input also. Another input also. So if you left open an input terminal as unused terminal, so this unused CMOS input, now it causes the noise and static charges here. So therefore, because of the noise and static charges, it would bias the transistors in the conductive state, resulting in increasing the power dissipation here. So if you have not connected one terminal, so that one terminal will be causing the noise from the external environment, and because of that noise or because of the static charges, the transistors will be affected here. When the transistors are affected, so either the resistance may be increases or decreases. So because of that, the current will change, and as of that, because of that, the power dissipation will also be increased here. So therefore, here in a CMOS circuits, not only to a CMOS circuits, to any logic gates, no input should be left unconnected here, or no input should be left open here. So then how we can minimize these effects here? If you are not connected, it has leads to increasing the power dissipation, or it may be effect on the transistor behavior. So to avoid that, so these inputs must be connected to in three different ways here. So one is either it can connected to the 0 volts, or it can connected to the VDD, or it may be connected to the another input. You can see these three conditions here. Take the first condition here, another input. By leaving the input as unconnected, so you can tie to the another input here. You can tie to the another input. So in that way also you can avoid these noise and static charges. And also you can connect the unconnected input to the power supply VDD, which is a pull-up network, or you can connect it to the zero, which is a pull-down network. It is a pull-down network. Among the three conditions, among the three configurations, the pull-up network and the pull-down networks, these are very preferable. These are very preferable rather than this one here. So if you use this one, this causes to increase the capacitive load here. This causes to increase the capacitive load. So that's why rather than these two, rather than this, so these two will be preferable here. So and observe here the NAND gate, in the case of NAND gate, the unconnected inputs are always connected to the pull-up network only. In the case of NOR gates, the unconnected inputs are always connected to the pull-down network only. Remember that. It is very important. In NAND gates, unconnected inputs are always connected to the pull-up network, VDD only. And for NOR gates, it should be connected to the pull-down. It should be connected to the ground only. Remember that. So that is about the unused inputs. So with this, we can conclude for the DC characteristics or the steady state behavior of the CMOS, steady state of the BMOS. So we will quickly summarize the static behavior, static or DC or steady state characteristics of the CMOS circuits. So we have discussed the logic levels. There are two logic levels, voltage logic levels and current logic levels. Voltage logic levels are the function of the power supplies. We have four voltage logic levels: VOL, VOH, VIH, VIL. And the second one is the noise margin levels. there are two noise margin levels, and the noise margin levels are determined from the voltage logic levels. The two noise margin levels are the high state noise margin level and the low state noise margin level. And the third one is the CMOS behavior with the resistive load. When a resistive load is connected to the CMOS circuit, it has a effect on the output voltage. It reduces the output voltage. In the case of high state, it reduces from the normal value. In the case of the low state output voltage, it increases above the normal value. And the third and the fourth one is CMOS behavior with the non-ideal inputs. When non-ideal inputs are connected, again, this also has effect on the output voltages. That is on high output voltage and low output voltage. And then the fan out. The fan outs are the two here, the DC fan out and AC fan out. But mostly we will consider only the DC only. But we cannot ignore the AC fan out because it is seldom, and we cannot as precisely as we cannot determine the AC fan out. We cannot determine the AC fan out as precisely as. So here the fan out is two types, DC fan out and AC fan out. Okay, and then the effects of the loading. So what are the effects if the more number of the input devices are connected to the CMOS input? Loading, overloading. So there are 5 effects, and the fan in. The fan in is the maximum number of inputs that we can. The maximum number of inputs that can be connected to the maximum number of inputs that can be connected to the gate. And the last one, Monica. So last one, CMOS unused inputs. So no input in the CMOS circuits will be left open or left unconnected or it will be a floating point. If it is so, then it will be susceptible to the noises or the static charges. Because of that, the circuit performance will be degraded here. The circuit performance will be degraded here. So this is all about the behavior of the CMOS circuit in static state. That is the steady state. And in the next class, we will discuss about the dynamic characteristics of the CMOS, and these are very, very important. Okay, so I hope you understand this, and if you have any doubts, you can ask me.